The clink of champagne glasses echoed through the grand ballroom, a discordant melody to the words that had just seared themselves into my memory. Declan, my brand new husband, had leaned in during our first dance, a mocking smile playing on his lips, and whispered, "Honestly, Zara, you're so incredibly naive. Your family's money might make you feel secure, but it won't fix your inability to understand real ambition or how much I've had to tolerate your particularities." His eyes flickered to the DJ booth, a brief nervous glance that I alone seemed to catch. Around us, our 150 guests laughed, unaware, bathed in the soft glow of fairy lights, celebrating a union that was already a meticulously crafted lie. My smile remained fixed, an actress playing her part, but inside, a glacial stillness settled. His words were a gauntlet thrown, and the game had just begun. He had no idea I was already holding the winning hand. I met Declan at a university alumni event, a casual mixer in the city. He was magnetic, all sharp wit and dazzling ambition, talking animatedly about his burgeoning tech startup. I was an analyst, pragmatic and detail-oriented, a stark contrast to his freewheeling charm. He made me laugh, challenged my perspectives, and for the first time, I felt a connection that transcended my structured world. The first minor red flag was subtle. He'd gently steer conversations away from my early career successes, quickly pivoting back to his own ventures. I dismissed it as entrepreneurial focus, admiring his drive. Our early dates were filled with shared dreams, late-night talks about the future, and the exhilarating chaos of renovating a small apartment together, a tangible symbol of our joint aspiration. I remember our second anniversary, cooking a complicated, multi-course French meal from scratch in that half-finished kitchen, laughing until our sides ached, feeling utterly connected. It was a memory I would later cling to, a ghost of a happiness that made the betrayal sting even more. Those initial years were our golden period. We explored Italy, hiked through the Dolomites, and celebrated every small victory of his startup as if it were our own. I believed in him, pouring not just emotional support, but also a significant portion of my early inheritance, a sum close to $75,000, into his business to help him secure vital seed funding. I even deferred a potential promotion to dedicate time to managing his nascent business accounts, believing we were building something together, brick by brick. He was different, I thought. He was the one who saw beyond my family's legacy, who loved me, not my background. We had detailed discussions about our financial future, our joint investments, our plans for a family. The trust was absolute, a sturdy bridge connecting our two lives. Then, the first cracks appeared. Declan started making lavish, impulsive purchases without a word. A vintage watch, a custom-tailored suit, even a luxury weekend getaway to a resort I'd never heard of. When I gently questioned the expense, he'd dismissively say he was investing in appearance for clients, gaslighting with, "You're overthinking, Zara. It's just business. You worry too much." The pattern had begun, subtle as a whisper, but growing louder with each passing month. The pattern of disrespect quickly escalated. The first incident of clear disrespect was at my parents' annual holiday dinner. Amidst the festive cheer, Declan, unprompted, launched into a thinly veiled critique of my investment portfolio, implying it was too conservative, too safe, in front of my father, a seasoned investor. I forced a smile and deflected with a joke about my cautious nature, but the sting of public belittling lingered. A few months later, on a group trip to Aspen with mutual friends, he openly flirted with another woman at the lodge bar, laughing intimately, his hand lingering on her arm. When I confronted him later, privately, he scoffed, "You're being dramatic, Zara. She's a client's wife. Networking." My discomfort grew, a knot tightening in my stomach, but I still made excuses. The true boundary was crossed when I discovered a substantial transfer, $15,000, from our joint savings account to an unknown recipient. He claimed it was a last-minute, critical vendor payment for his startup, essential for a looming deadline. The amount was significant, the explanation vague, and a cold dread settled deep within me. Friends and family, like our neighbor Mrs. Delgado, would sometimes give me pitying glances after Declan's remarks, but no one ever said anything directly, leaving me to tolerate it alone. The deeper betrayal was a cruel accident. One humid afternoon, Declan had rushed out for a client meeting, leaving his gym bag on the living room floor. As I tidied up, a small, unfamiliar burner phone slipped out. My heart hammered against my ribs. I picked it up, unlocking it with his birth date, a guess, but a successful one. The screen lit up with a barrage of intimate texts from a contact named Sienna. "Can't wait for our future," read one. "How are we handling Zara's family money after the wedding?" read another. My world, built on shared dreams and unwavering trust, shattered into a million pieces. The words swam before my eyes, plans for dates, discussions about their life together, a life that meticulously excluded me, save for my financial resources. The air left my lungs. For a moment, all I felt was a crushing wave of nausea, a raw, primal hurt. But that vulnerability was fleeting. A cold, hard resolve solidified in its place. I placed the phone back, wiping it clean, and made a silent vow. I would not confront him. Not yet. I would investigate. My investigation began immediately, fueled by a terrifying calmness. The first week, I cross-referenced the burner phone's texts with Declan's meticulously maintained calendar. Every business trip or late-night client meeting suddenly aligned with Sienna's geotagged social media posts and specific locations mentioned in their messages. It was chillingly methodical. The second week brought a more damning discovery. Using an old shared tablet, still logged into his cloud, I stumbled upon financial documents, not for his legitimate startup, but for a newly formed shell company with an innocuous name, Viridian Capital. He was siphoning funds, clearly. The third week plunged me into a fresh layer of horror. I found evidence of Declan actively manipulating my father, subtly pressuring him into investing a significant sum into this fake Viridian Capital, jeopardizing my family's financial stability. An unexpected ally emerged in my cousin Leo, a brilliant, albeit socially awkward, cybersecurity expert. He noticed my distress and discreetly offered his help. He recovered deleted files, tracked digital footprints, and even set up a monitoring system on my smart home devices that, unbeknownst to Declan, was now recording his every conversation. The worst discovery, the one that changed everything, was a series of emails between Declan and a dubious offshore broker discussing methods to move my trust fund assets out of the country after our wedding. It wasn't just infidelity, it was a premeditated financial assassination. I systematically created a paper trail documenting everything in a secured cloud folder, each file meticulously labeled and timestamped. The ultimate public humiliation came on our wedding day, at the opulent reception, a tableau of gilded deception. The ballroom, glittering with chandeliers, was packed with our loved ones, my parents, Declan's sparse family, and our extensive circle of mutual friends, including Dr. Lena Petrova, a revered family physician, and Mr. Harrison, my father's esteemed business partner, and our neighbor, Mrs. Delgado. Declan, emboldened by champagne and what he perceived as his triumph, pulled me close during our dance. His lips were at my ear, his voice low, dripping with a venomous sweetness. "Honestly, Zara, you're so incredibly naive. Your family's money might make you feel secure, but it won't fix your inability to understand real ambition or how much I've had to tolerate your particularities." As he delivered the cruel barb, his eyes darted, almost imperceptibly, towards the DJ booth, then to a small hidden camera above the bar. A brief, telling gesture that only I, now hyper-aware, noticed. My father stiffened slightly, Mrs. Delgado frowned, and Dr. Petrova's gaze sharpened, but no one moved. My smile remained frozen, my outward composure unwavering. But inside, something irrevocably shifted. The hurt, the betrayal, evaporated, replaced by an ice-cold clarity. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting my family, about unmasking a predator. His fatal mistake wasn't just his cruelty, but that split-second glance at the camera, a small detail that told me he had a pre-planned escape route, likely involving Sienna. He was preparing to bolt with my family's money, using this grand charade as a smokescreen. That's when I realized he hadn't just broken my trust. He saw me as a means to an end, a mark to be exploited and discarded. The decision was made. The plan, which had been incubating in the darkest corners of my mind, was now ready for execution. One final test, a confirmation of his true nature. Later that night, feigning anxiety, I asked him about a missing $50,000 from my personal trust account, a sum I knew he'd pilfered weeks ago. He laughed it off, wrapping an arm around me, saying, "It's all ours now, darling. Stop worrying. We're married, remember?" That dismissal, that casual theft dressed as affection, sealed his fate. My final accommodating act was to lean into his embrace, a soft, complicit smile on my lips, and whisper, "Of course, my love. You're right. I'm just being silly." The trap was sprung. The weeks that followed were a blur of calculated movements. My first call was to Miss Beatrice Vance, a formidable family law attorney with a reputation for surgical precision. Our initial meeting, 3 intense hours, cost me $1,200, but her calm, strategic mind was worth every penny. She helped me understand the labyrinthine legalities of marital fraud and prenuptial enforcement. Next, I consulted Mr. Silas O'Connell, a forensic accountant. He meticulously traced every suspicious transaction, uncovering hidden accounts and shell companies with an almost obsessive dedication. Then came Mr. Julian Thorne, a discreet private investigator whose surveillance reports confirmed Sienna's identity, her close relationship with Declan, and her active participation in his schemes. The total cost for assembling this team, spread over 4 months of relentless preparation, reached approximately $30,000, an investment I was certain would pay dividends. The evidence collection was the backbone of my entire strategy. Leo, my tech-savvy cousin, became my digital shadow. He recovered security camera footage from my family home study, clearly showing Declan accessing my father's computer. He extracted an astonishing 112 text messages from the burner phone detailing the affair and the elaborate financial conspiracy. Mr. O'Connor's forensic work provided bank statements showing a staggering $187,000 systematically transferred from my irrevocable trust to Declan's shell company, Viridian Capital. Leo also helped me secure witness testimony from my father's assistant, who corroborated Declan's manipulative conversations. Crucially, I had 7 separate audio recordings captured unwittingly by smart home devices, documenting Declan detailing his schemes with Sienna, celebrating his cleverness, and even laughing about my naivety. Mr. Thorne's team provided an email trail revealing Declan's communication with an offshore broker for funds and a dossier of photos and screenshots of Sienna's social media geotagged at locations coinciding perfectly with Declan's business trips. We obtained all of this without Declan ever suspecting. There were close calls. Once, Declan almost discovered a micro camera Leo had planted in his office, only for me to create a sudden distraction about a lost earring. Simultaneously, I initiated my financial fortress. I opened new, individual accounts at Sterling Bank and Summit Trust, meticulously transferring all personal assets, my investment portfolios, my inherited custom sapphire necklace, a family heirloom, out of any joint access. I canceled Declan's access to joint credit cards, froze our shared savings, and systematically changed every password and security question for all online accounts. I set up automatic payments for my solo apartment rent and utilities. As a decoy, I left a small, easily traceable joint checking account with just enough funds for him to think I was merely forgetful, a loose end he wouldn't bother to secure. Miss Vance then armed me with legal weapons. We prepared for prenuptial enforcement, which I'd insisted upon before the wedding, as well as comprehensive fraud charges. We had strong grounds for breach of fiduciary duty given his role in accessing my trust. Restraining order paperwork was ready should he become volatile. Miss Vance shrewdly advised filing in my family's county, where my trust was originally established, giving us a crucial jurisdictional advantage. She cited several legal precedents regarding marital fraud and asset protection. She even unearthed an obscure statute concerning elder financial abuse, making his manipulation of my father an even more serious offense. We had backup plans for every possible countermove, including a contingency for a separate lawsuit against Sienna for conspiracy. 2 weeks after the wedding, the stage was set. I arranged a reconciliation dinner at the Onyx, an upscale restaurant known for its private dining rooms. That morning, I moved with calm precision, reviewing every piece of evidence, double-checking Miss Vance's notes. I wore the sapphire necklace, a silent symbol of my family's legacy. Declan, oblivious, was making plans with Sienna for a celebratory post-dinner drink, convinced he had me right where he wanted me. The confrontation took place in a secluded private dining room at the Onyx. The maitre d' showed me in, then moments later, Declan arrived, radiating false charm. He smiled, reaching for my hand across the pristine white tablecloth. My voice, ice cold, sliced through the air. Declan, I'm afraid this isn't a reconciliation dinner, it's an intervention. His smile faltered. Zara, darling, what melodramatic nonsense is this now? He asked, dismissive, trying to laugh it off. I slid a sleek, unembellished folder across the table. Inside were bank statements, meticulous ledgers from Mr. O'Connell, showing the $187,000 transfer from my trust to Viridian Capital, along with the shell company's registration documents. Declan's eyes widened, a flicker of genuine concern replacing his feigned amusement. He lunged for the papers, trying to snatch them. "This is confidential business, Zara. You have no right to this," he hissed. He tried to explain. "It's an aggressive investment strategy, Zara. High risk, high reward. I was protecting you from your own timid nature, my love." I met his gaze, unflinching. "That shell company, Viridian Capital, has no legitimate business activity, Declan, and the funds were explicitly taken from my irrevocable trust." A trust, by the way, that you signed a sworn declaration acknowledging you would not interfere with. The second wave of evidence hit him harder. I pushed another folder across the table. This one contained the burner phone's text messages, printed transcripts of his conversations with Sienna, photos of them together, and the damning details of his manipulation of my father's investments. His face paled, knocking over a water glass with a trembling hand. You went through my things?" he stammered, his voice laced with panic. "This is a violation. I'll sue you for invasion of privacy." He leaned forward, attempting to bargain. "Zara, please, we can fix this. Sienna means nothing. It was a mistake. We're married, darling. Think of our future." I remained unyielding. "You've committed marital fraud, financial fraud, and elder abuse against my father. You're facing criminal charges, Declan. My prenuptial agreement ensures you walk away with nothing but your debts and a ruined reputation. And the recording of your confession," I said, producing a small USB drive and placing it on the table, "is already with the authorities." At that precise moment, Leo entered the room. He held a tablet, its screen displaying live transfers from Declan's secret accounts. "He's right, Zara," Leo stated, his voice calm, technical. "The funds were indeed transferred from the trust. Here's the timestamp." Declan sunk back into his chair, utterly defeated. "What have you done?" he whispered, his eyes wide with horror. His final desperate plea was guttural. "But the business, our life, what about us?" I looked him directly in the eye, my voice devoid of emotion. "Our life ended the moment you started calling my family's money yours and me naive at our own wedding." The immediate fallout was swift and brutal. Within 24 hours, Declan's relentless calls and texts, full of panicked apologies and threats, ceased when he discovered the locks on our apartment were changed and a security system installed. I sent a concise, factual email to our mutual friends and family, attaching key pieces of evidence. The shock rippled through our social circles. Many were disgusted, some were quietly supportive, like Mrs. Delgado, who left a casserole on my doorstep. The story, leaked by an anonymous source, Leo, I suspected, quickly appeared on a local gossip blog, exposing Declan's schemes. His frantic, public meltdown on Instagram, where he ranted about a vengeful ex, was met with a flood of comments containing screenshots of the evidence. Then came the surprise supporter, Dr. Lena Petrova, a highly respected physician and family friend who had witnessed his cruelty at the wedding, released a measured public statement condemning Declan's character and supporting my allegations. The legal resolution unfolded over the next few months. Our divorce hearing, scheduled just 2 months after the Onyx confrontation, was surprisingly swift. Miss Vance systematically presented the evidence, Mr. O'Connell's forensic reports detailing the financial fraud, Leo's expert testimony on the digital forensics, and Mr. Thorne's surveillance reports confirming the affair and conspiracy. Judge Hawthorne, a notoriously no-nonsense jurist, expressed her profound disapproval, noting the premeditated and egregious nature of Declan's actions. The divorce was finalized, the prenuptial agreement upheld, and Declan was ordered to repay $210,000 to me and my father, the original funds plus significant damages. A permanent restraining order was issued, prohibiting him from contacting me or my family. His desperate attempt to appeal on grounds of emotional distress was dismissed within weeks. The final legal outcome, Declan was declared bankrupt, his shell company flagged for a public inquiry, and he was left with nothing but his substantial personal debts. Miss Vance's bill, a total of $45,000, was, without a doubt, the best investment I ever made. Declan's downfall was absolute. He ended up living in his parents' spare room in a different state, his startup dissolved, and his reputation in the tech community in tatters. He now works part-time at a discount electronics store, a stark contrast to his former ambitions. Sienna abandoned him the moment his financial issues became public, and his few loyal friends quickly distanced themselves. He's buried under over $250,000 in personal debt, his remaining accounts frozen by creditors. The greatest luxury he lost, the one I knew would sting the most, was his custom-built sports car, repossessed within weeks of the judgment. My new reality, however, blossomed. My apartment, now entirely mine, felt truly like home. I accepted the promotion I had previously deferred, excelling in my career with a newfound focus, and my investment portfolio recovered and grew robustly. I found contentment in my own company, though I remained open to genuine connections, no longer in a hurry to define myself through another person. I now travel freely, pursuing my passions without needing to justify expenses or hide my successes. The entire ordeal unexpectedly strengthened my relationship with my family, particularly my father and my brilliant cousin Leo. My best friend, Clara, stood by me through every step, her unwavering support a beacon in the storm. My perspective shifted profoundly. I learned the true value of integrity, self-reliance, and knowing my own worth. Months later, I saw Declan again. I was attending a charity gala I was co-sponsoring, celebrating the launch of a new community initiative. He was there, working as a waiter, expertly weaving through the crowd, avoiding eye contact. When he reached my table, serving me a glass of sparkling water, his hand trembled slightly. I looked him directly in the eye and said, "I hope you're finally learning the value of honest work, Declan. Some things money can't buy." He dropped his gaze, his face flushing. I took a sip of water, a small internal smile playing on my lips. The closure wasn't about his suffering, it was about my undeniable freedom. I had truly moved on, a stronger, wiser woman, leaving the echoes of his betrayal far behind me.